In this quick little video, we're going to be talking about Office setup. Now, Office setup should have been done correctly for you um, as part of the onboarding process or when you've initially gotten your credentials. But in the event that you received an Office that was partially set up and you need to modify that information or make some corrections, what you're going to do is you're going to go into the Office setup. And if the name's wrong, go ahead and change the name. If the bank selection's wrong, now the bank selection and what's available here is going to queue off of your EFIN setup within your ERO information. So if you're not seeing your bank approved here, we've probably got something wrong with your EFIN registration, and you need to give somebody a call. Sales tax percentage calculation, I don't really worry about that one. Now, we had talked about in the video when you're setting up a preparer, the login security code. Now, mine by just happenstance when it was set up was Apple. Now, if you decide to change that, you will definitely need to communicate that to all of your preparers, being that it is a component of the sign-in. You've got your username, your password, and your security code. In short order, this may be going away because of the multi-factor authentication to where you will only have a username and password and not the additional level of security using the security code. You'll just have your username and password. Now, if you need to, or if you prefer to have a different date shown on the printed tax return other than the current date when it was printed, you can pick the return created date, the return completed date, or leave it blank. Don't print a date. As we go down, we've got the signature on the form 8879. What do you want in there? You want to leave it blank, both preparer and ERO names. You have the Defend My ID markup amount. So whatever the base fee is, you have an opportunity to increase that for your own profits. You can mark it to where it's defaulted on every return, or you can, for some unknown reason, you could say, I don't want to offer that. Now, you're crazy, but you could say that. That's okay. We can talk about that later. Same thing with the AMP product. Now, moving down, you can have the print the digital signature on the 1040. Do you want that? Yes or no? Based on what's selected, it's what's going to happen to the return. Print the firm information on the cover page. Yes or no? Disable the third party designee pre-fill. Now, as you go through each of these, you can see that you can have it gives you a brief explanation, and they're pretty well like the description's pretty well there already. So if you have any questions, definitely give us a call regarding that. But if you want to force the signature prior to e-file, the electronic signature, if you want to display the summary view when you log in instead of the 1040 view, if you want to hide the preparer name on the 1040 print, do you want to always print the Schedule A? Now, this is where things kind of get interesting. Do you want to use the Topaz signature pad, or do you want to use the mouse signature or touchscreen signature? Now, most softwares require that you buy a peripheral device in order to sign a tax return. The software, this software does not. You can either use the mouse on your keypad and sign your preparer sign their signature as well as the taxpayer sign their signature when they're ready, or you can get the Topaz TS whatever model that you select as long as it's compatible and has a web driver. Now, there is a little bit of an installation with the Topaz model to where you'd probably need a little bit of assistance if you're not real tech savvy or know where to go get those drivers. Okay. Now, an additional level of security, if you do not want your preparers logging in from home, you only want them doing their work while they are in the office, then you are going to want to force verification of IP address. Now, this requires some additional setup, and we'll have a video on this, how to work that, how to locate your computer IP address, and how to configure that. But you would need to uh, set that up additionally. So before you check that box, make sure you're clear on all of that and know how that works. Do you want to default the state return type to be sent through the bank? Now, basically, that's saying if the federal's a bank product, do you want the state return to also follow suit? and it will do the exact same thing. If you selected a check for Fed, it'll select a check for state. If you select direct deposit, blah blah, it'll work in that fashion. So hopefully, or we see a lot of people do that, and it's entirely up to you. Require email address entry on e-file page. If you want to force your preparers to capture the most common communication method for business communications, great thing to do, then you would want to check that. And I highly advise doing that and making it just a standard component of uh, doing a return in your office. Now, if you have a largely Spanish-speaking clientele, default the tax returns to Spanish so that the software shows up automatically in Spanish. Require return tags for saving returns. And handful of use cases where this applies, where you're going to force your preparers to tag the return. If you have something that's outside the standard workflow that we have built within the software for reviewing a return, and you can go ahead and force them to then mark that return as such. Okay. Uh, the your address, make sure your address is correct, make sure your phone number is correct, and other than that, that is the office setup. Again, we're in configuration. We go to the office setup menu. 99 times out of 100, it's already going to be set up correctly for you, but definitely feel free if you have the access to go in and make sure it's correctly configured. Thanks so much, and let's have a great season.